All right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover SWAC inside and out. I am your tour guide around the SWAC Wells coming at you, and we are ready to talk about Week 5 action, all SWAC games on the schedule. So the intensity ramps up, the importance of the games ramps up, and the majority of the non-conference games are over. So from here on out is pretty much SWAC play. From here to December 7th, which is the SWAC championship game. So with that being said, we're going to talk about the games that's taking place this Saturday, and I'll give my thoughts on all of them. We have our Week 5 pick'em. The Week 5 pick'em is up, so you can check that out on all of my socials. I have a pinned tweet on my Twitter account, which is SWAC Talk 76. I also have it up on my Instagram and Facebook, which are both Swag Talk. So if y'all want to get in on that, you can do so. And also, don't forget to comment your thoughts on the upcoming games. Like the video, share, hit that notification bell to be alerted to anything we drop. Because we have the last two Saturday nights after games, we have dropped a post-game edition. We call it therapy time. So, we're going to probably do that more often. So just keep it locked here to the socials and also hit that notification bell so you can get the alert when it drops. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to help us continue to grow because, we have crossed 1,300, want to get to 1,500. That's the next milestone. So if you hit that subscribe button, you'll definitely be helping us out a lot. And that's that. So let's go ahead and jump into this Week 5 preview. We're going to start off with some important news on the Week 5 action. The Florida A&M Alabama A&M game, which was scheduled for Saturday, has been rescheduled to November 29th due to the hurricane out in the Gulf. So just to who knows what's going to happen with that situation. Just to be on the safe side, they went ahead and moved it because I think the storm is forecasted to move toward Tallahassee and make landfall in that area. So they're going to move that game to November 29th at the end of the season. So that takes us off of one game. Also, another game that we're going to monitor is the Bethune-Cookman Alabama State game. As of right now, that game is still on as scheduled. So we're going to preview that game first. But if the weather takes a turn for the worst in that area, you can expect that game to be moved to another time period. But as of right now, that game is scheduled to take place as scheduled. And this game is a HBCU Go broadcast, 2 p.m. Eastern time, kickoff 1 p.m. Central time. So Bethune-Cookman back-to-back HBCU Go games these last 2 weeks. And we'll go ahead and talk about this game. We'll start off with the visitors of Alabama State. They are coming off of a bye week. They're 1-2, losses to North Carolina Central and Samford, and a victory over Miles. The last, after the North Carolina Central game where they lost basically both of their starting quarterbacks, their offense has not been good. I mean, they did score 24 points against Miles, but they scored those all in the first half. Second half, they did not move the ball well at all in that game. And then against Samford, they only scored 7 points and really struggled to move the ball in that game as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if Alabama State's offense can start to pick up steam as their young quarterbacks continue to develop some reps and continuity with the offense. Losing a guy like Andrew Body, who is a guy you brought in to run this team. Losing him it is a big blow. Then at least for the time being, you lose your other quarterbacks. So you're forced to kind of rely on guys who you weren't expecting to have to play, and now they have to get ready. Basically, they had to get ready with a trial by fire. But the Hornets defense is still amazing, so that's been carrying them even in the loss to Samford. They only gave up 12 points. I feel like if you give up 12 points, you should win. You shouldn't really lose games giving up 12 points. But with the offense being the way it is, it's starting to look like it did a couple years ago. So they have to really find a way to get this offense untracked. Um, and it starts with, like most teams, it starts with being able to continue to run the football. This past right now, the Hornets are averaging 166 yards per game on the ground, so they have run the ball pretty well. They continue to do that. That'll help them out a lot. They average 4.2 yards per carry with 4 touchdowns. Defensively, they're giving up 105.7 yards per game, 2.9 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. When they go to the air, that's where it's really been rough right now. They are 94 yards per game, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 23 of 52 passing. The opponents 45 of 77, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 164 yards passing. Hornets 258 yards, a total offense, 4.6 yards per play. The opponents 269 yards per game, 4.3 yards per play. Bama State is 29% on third downs, 12 of 41, and they're 2 of 4 on fourth down for 50%. They've lost 1 fumble on the season, and they have registered 7 sacks as a defense. The opponents are at 31% on third down, and they haven't converted a fourth down yet. And they have they have registered 8 sacks on the season. Individually, DeQuan Kinsey is the leading rusher. He has 168 yards, 166 yards on 22 carries, averaging 7.5 yards per carry with 1 touchdown. Jamari Holesclaw, 21 carries, 108 yards, averages 5.1 yards per carry. And then Marcus Harris at 18 carries for 86 yards and a touchdown, averaging 4.8 yards per carry. Zach Sims is the leading passer right now. He has 9 completions, 24 attempts, 106 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Only completing 37% of his passes, so you would really obviously like to see that number go up. Hopefully, as he gets more comfortable, the passing game can start to become a weapon for them. Right now, Asa Gregg is the leading pass catcher in terms of yardage. From his tight end spot, he has 2 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. And Bakari Daly has 3 catches for 59 yards. Right now, Jalen Jones leads the team with 6 receptions. They just haven't, like I said, they just haven't really had a lot of production in that aspect of their offense. They do have three 40+ yard completions, so that they have shown some explosiveness when they have been able to throw the ball, but they just haven't been able to do that consistently. DeMarcus Cunningham leads the defense with 21 tackles. Rico Dozier has 20, and Traquan Thomas has 18. Thomas leads the team with 5 tackles for loss, and he also leads the team with 3.5 sacks. James Burgess, Amon Scarborough, and Rudy Jean-Louis, they each have 1 interception on the season. And this is a game of two teams who have really dynamic return men. Robert McMahon is a guy that I like a lot as a returner. He's averaging 32 yards on punt returns, and he does have a 82 yard. He does have a 20. He's also averaging 14.5 yards per kickoff return. But AJ Gates has an 82-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So their return game has been very solid, averaging 23 yards per kickoff return and 27 yards per punt return. So they have a very solid unit in terms of return, in terms of the return game. And Bethune-Cookman is another team that has a really dynamic returner. So those hidden yards could be huge in a game like this. Bethune-Cookman coming in off of a disappointing loss to Clark Atlanta, where they lost on a last-second 55-yard field goal. And this was a game that they were up 28-7, and ultimately let the game slip away. That was their best offensive effort of the season, but it went for naught. Wildcats averaging 18.2 points per game. They're giving up 44. 77.8 yards per game on the ground, 2.3 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. Opponents 228 yards per game on the ground, 5.5 yards per carry, and 11 touchdowns. When the Wildcats go to the air, they have 63 completions, 109 attempts, 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, 189.2 yards per game. The opponents 80 of 117, 12 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, 275 yards per game. Total offense 267 yards per game for the Wildcats, 4.3 yards per play. The opponents 503 yards per game and 7.1 yards per play. Bethune-Cookman is converting 18% on third downs, 60% on fourth downs, and they do have 12 sacks, which they have been getting pretty solid pressure on the passer from their defense. The opponents are converting 42% on third down and 42% on fourth down, and they have registered 13 sacks. Bethune-Cookman has been doing a solid job of getting to the quarterback, but they haven't really protected the quarterback either. So it's kind of a give and take. Cam Ransom is the leading rusher. He has 135 yards on 49 carries with 3 touchdowns. And Courtney Reese is the leading rusher in terms of running backs. He has 39 carries for 87 yards, averaging 2.2 yards per carry. And as you can see, like I said, they don't really have a lot of big plays in their run game. The longest run on the season is 29 yards. And that's by Cam Ransom. And Basil has a 23-yard run. So they haven't really broken a lot of big runs, and you can see that in their yards per carry average and their yards per game average. They just haven't really had that success running the ball. Even in a game like last week where they threw the ball for, I think over 300 yards or close to it, they did not run the ball well in that game. And I think if they were able to run the ball, that would really have helped wear Clark down and keep them off the field offensively. But they weren't able to do that. Cam Ransom is 58 for 93 passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 720 yards. He does have a long of 70. The passing game has been a bit more explosive. They have longs of 70, 44, 54, 36, 31, and 25. So they have hit some big plays down the field in their passing attack. Kobe Stewart has 3 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown. Malik Huggins has 7 catches for 126 yards. Lorenzo Jenkins has 7 catches for 105 yards. And Courtney Reese leads the team with 10 receptions, and he has 87 yards and a touchdown. Darnell Dees has 1 catch for 70 yards and a touchdown. He had that Saturday against Clark. Raymond Woody, the third, leads the defense with 33 tackles, by far the most out of anybody on the team. Tackles for loss, their leader is E.K. Brown. He has 4 tackles for loss on the season. He also has 4 sacks. So he's been really solid. And this defense has done a good job of generating pressure and registering sacks. And that takes into account, you got to look at their opponents. They had 2 FBS games, the FCS game, and a D2 game. So they really have played well on defense in spurts, especially, registering sacks. Obviously, they give up a lot of points, and that's a byproduct of playing two FBS games and then playing a really solid Mercer team and giving up 38 points, I believe it is, to Clark Atlanta. So they haven't been able to keep teams off the scoreboard. And when you can't do that, you put a lot of pressure on your offense. And right now they do lead the SWAC in sacks as a defense. So this is a matchup of different style, not really different styles, but different production from the units. Bama State offensively just has not been playing well after the first week. And Bethune-Cookman's defense has been up and down. They've shown the ability, obviously, to create some havoc in the passing game with their pass rush. But when you look at their defense against the pass, they give up 275 yards, which is last in the league. So they can still be if they don't get a sack, they can still be vulnerable to the passing game, and they also have struggles to stop the run. So their defense, other than registering 12 sacks, the defense has just not been there at all. And opponents have converted a high percentage on third downs. So if you're Bama State, this is a game to to lean on your run game and get your young quarterback comfortable. Um, and just take advantage of having your defense that's gonna probably be the best unit on the field between the two teams. And I think just because of Bama State's defense, they win this game. It's gonna. I don't know how. Like I said, Bethune Cookman has given up a lot of points this season, but I don't know if they if Bama State's offense will be able to score as many points as Bethune has given up. But if there's a game for this offense to break out, it's this one. But I think it's still going to be a relatively low scoring game because I think Bama State's defense will stifle Bethune Cookman offense, and that'll give the Hornets an opportunity to do just enough to pick up a win. I like this game. Bama State 26, Bethune Cookman 10. I think it's going to be a hard fought physical game, but I think Bama State defense is going to rule the day. And that takes us to our next game on the schedule, which is Mississippi Valley hosting Alcorn. Um, this game is a little bit more interesting than it probably would be, but I still don't think it's gonna be that interesting because I think this is a game that all on Alcorn, but this is a 6 o'clock kickoff in Itabena. Um, Again, can be seen on the Valley State Sports Network. So if you want to check it out, you can catch it there. Um, Alcorn just they haven't really been able to put a lot together offensively. Um, they just, they just haven't really had a consistent run game, really outside of Xavier Vaughn, and the passing game hasn't really been that consistent. And other than the Edward Waters game, they haven't really scored a lot of points. They scored 38 points against Edward Waters, and they scored 17 points in their other three games. So they really haven't been able to put points on the board. And again, other than the Edward Waters game, they've given up a lot of points. Um, Although to be fair, two of those games were FBS games. Excuse me. So you got to kind of take that how it is. But right now, the Braves are averaging 13.7 points per game. They're giving up 36.2. They are rushing for 135 and a half yards per game, 3.8 yards per carry, and 6 touchdowns. Opponents, 5.2 yards per carry, 223 yards per game on the ground, and 10 touchdowns. Alcorn is 52 of 106 passing, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, 137 yards per game. The opponents, 59 of 86, 5 touchdowns with 4 interceptions, 165 and a half yards per game. Alcorn averaging 4.4 yards per play, 273 yards per game, and 7 total touchdowns. The opponents, 389 yards per game, 6 yards per play, and 19 total touchdowns. Alcorn is at 27% on third down, 15 of 55. Opponents 20 of 47 for 42%. Alcorn is 2 of 4 on fourth down for 50%. Opponents 1 of 4 for 25%. Alcorn defense has only 2 sacks on the season, and they've given up 9 as offense. When you look at the individual numbers, Xavier Vaughn is the leading rusher with 41 carries for 255 yards and 5 touchdowns, averaging 6.2 yards per carry. And then after that, it's kind of tight. Jacorian Sewell has 33 carries for 89 yards. Tyler Macon has 17 carries for 70 yards, excuse me. And then Brandon Rogers has 18 carries for 38 yards. So they really have to get something going. They have 6 rushing touchdowns on the season, and all 6 come from their quarterbacks. They just haven't really been able to get a lot going in the run game outside of the quarterback. So for them to get where I think they can be, The running game has to get the running game has to pick up, especially from the running back position. And they really need to kind of be more consistent in the passing game. Right now, Vaughn is 44 for 88 at 50%, 504 yards. He has one touchdown and one interception. When they go to the air right now, Ty Warren is the guy he's been looking to the last couple of weeks. He has 5 catches for 129 yards and one touchdown, averaging 25.8 yards per catch. Damian Jones has 7 catches for 105 yards. The 105 yards leads the team. And T. Adams, 8 catches for 85 yards. Also, Tavares Griffin, 9 catches, 62 yards. Defensively, this unit, they've been gashed by FBS teams, and they got hit pretty hard against McNeese as well. So they're looking to rebound and get to where I think Alcorn's defense can be. Stamarion Edwards has 21 tackles, along with Kayvon Henderson. They both lead the team with 21 tackles. Edwards has 5.5 tackles for loss to lead the team. Malachi Bailey has 4.5. And Edwards and Gibson both have a sack on the season. And they have 5 interceptions by McCall, McKelton, McLaurin, Summerauer, and Edwards. They have 4 interceptions, Summerauer, McLaurin, McKelton, and McCall. So they have been forcing some turnovers, but they just haven't really been able to do a lot as an offense, and that really kind of hurts you in the long run. So hopefully, they can find a way to make some things happen because it's been a rough start for them, and that's not unexpected when you play 2 FBS games. But you kind of was hoping for a better outcome against a team like McNeese, and they just didn't get that. And they're taking on a Valley team who started off bad against Tennessee State and looked like they could function against Lamar. And then the last 2 weeks, the bottom has fallen out. They lost 59-8 to Murray State and 66-0 to Nicholls State. So Valley is going in the wrong direction. Offensively, they haven't really been able to produce much. They're averaging 10.7 points per game. They're giving up 48.5. They're only rushing for 47.8 yards per game, including -7 last week. They do have 1 touchdown on the season, rushing 1.4 yards per carry. Opponents 258.5 yards per game on the ground, 6.1 yards per carry, and 13 touchdowns. Valley is 60 of 128 passing, 5 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. They threw 6 interceptions against Nicholls State on Saturday. So if you're Alcorn, there's a few things that you can take advantage of in this game. They do have 5 touchdowns on the season, passing 183 yards per game. The opponents 63 of 110, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 249 yards through the air. Valley 230.8 yards per game. Total offense 3.5 yards per play. Opponents 7.3 yards per play. 507 yards per game. Valley is converting 30% on 3rd down and 50% on 4th down. They have 3 sacks. The opponents have 14 sacks, 54% on 3rd down and 66% on 4th down. It's just been a rough go for Valley. There's no way you could spin these numbers to make them look anything other than the way they are. Tajarian Williams leads the team with 63 yards on 37 carries. Zamarion Kendall has 49 yards on 30 carries. And Jacoby Thomas has the only touchdown on the season for the Delta Devils on the ground. They've played 3 quarterbacks for various reasons, but Jaden Sisk is 30 of 63 to lead the team, 331 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Williams, 21 of 47, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And Ruben Lee is 9 of 18, 177 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. When they go to the air, they have some solid targets in the air. Nathan Rembert has 26 catches for 331 yards and a touchdown, and Carrick Ross has 16 catches for 201 yards and 3 touchdowns. So they have two guys who who can be productive in the passing game. They just don't have a lot of time to get the ball away. They don't have a lot of time to really make plays. Rembert leads the SWAC in total receptions, so he's been a very productive guy for them, um, along with Ross, who was a preseason All Conference guy. Defensively, when you look at Valley, they are led by Eric Campbell with 20 tackles. Jordan Montgomery has 19, and Shaughnessy Triplet has 18. Valley is led by Donovan Parham with 2.5 tackles for loss. He also leads the defense with 2 sacks. And Campbell and Marshall lead the team with 1 interception apiece. Valley is only 0 for 1 on field goals. They haven't kicked but 1. So and that kick was inside of 29 yards. So just haven't really had opportunities to do much. When you look at a team like this, they've only been in the red zone They've been in the red zone 9 times this season, and they're 4-9. So just haven't really had opportunities to put points on the board, in any way, shape, or form. Um, Nathan Rembert is averaging 17 yards per punt return, so that's something positive. Although you don't want that to be the only thing you hang your hat on, but right now I look at this game as Alcorn. Alcorn's playing Alcorn in this game. Valley, they have to do a lot of regrouping. I don't know where they at. I think this is a game that Alcorn can kind of use to get right again. I thought they were kind of on the right track after after that Waters game, so to speak, but they came back against McNeese and didn't have a good game. I think they rebound here because Valley can't stop the run. If for nothing else, Xavier Vaughn is going to be able to be successful running the ball for Alcorn. But I think the backs for Alcorn are starting to get going. Valley can't stop the pass, and they've been turnover prone, which is something Alcorn does well, forcing turnovers as a defense. Valley struggle to run the ball. I think Alcorn's defense can stymie them. And so I think this is going to be a game that it might be tight early because Valley gets up for games like this. This is their first home game of the season. They got a lot of new bells and whistles at the stadium that they're rolling out, that they want to kind of get that good momentum off of. So you can expect Valley to play like their heads on fire early, but I think Alcorn can wear them out and wear them down. And I think Alcorn wins this game 31-7. I think once they withstand that early rush, I think they just pound Valley, and Valley's problems continue to go as they've been, as they are really trying to find the right direction to go in, which hasn't been there for them so far. Our third game of the day is Jackson State taking on Texas Southern. This is a 6 p.m. kickoff. Two teams who both are coming in off of losses. JSU coming off of, depending on who you talk to, a surprising loss. TSU coming in off of a loss that should have been a win. Some penalties on the final drive by Lamar gave them, allowed them to score the winning touchdown. TSU played pretty well in that game. Still not quite there. KJ Campbell, the starting quarterback early in the season, has been out. So they've been, playing Jordan Davis at quarterback. And the running game, they found a couple pieces. They do have solid receiving options. Defensively, they have some talent there. But I think you're gonna get a JSU team who's gonna come in this game wanting to clean up the mistakes they made against Grambling, those turnovers and penalties. I think JSU is gonna try to get back to what they've been doing in their 2 wins, which is run the ball and run it well. Right now, JSU is averaging 31.2 points per game, giving up 23.2. They are averaging 150 yards per game on the ground, 4.9 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns. Opponents 103 yards per game on the ground, 6 touchdowns, 3.1 yard per carry. JSU is 61 of 103 passing, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 238.5 yards per game. Opponents 179.2 yards per game through the air, 56 of 105, 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Total offense, JSU 389.3 yards per game, 6.9 yards per play, 16 touchdowns. The opponents 4.7 yards per play, 282 yards per game, and 12 touchdowns. Jackson State 41% on third down, 25% on fourth down, and they have 11 sacks. The opponents 27% on third down, 50% on fourth down, and they have 4 sacks against JSU offense. When it comes to the rushing attack, Cameron McCoy has 150 yards on 16 carries. Also, Ahmad Miller, 18 carries, 95 yards. Travis Terrell, 17 carries, 91 yards. Herb Mulligan, 20 carries, 90 yards. J.D. Martin, 20 carries, 89 yards. Imari Matthews, 6 carries, 36 yards. So as you can see, they have 5 guys with at least with more than 80 yards rushing. So any given game, it can be any one of these guys carrying the ball that can be a factor. And I think that when it's clicking makes them a dangerous offense. They have so many pieces that can run the ball and run it well, all with different styles. So that really changes things for your defense. You can't just key in on one guy and you can't say, well, we got a guy who's a bruising back. We're just gonna, try to be prepared for that, or a guy who's gonna be quick to get to the edge against us. So we're just gonna have to be alert to that. You gotta be ready for everything because they can throw different things at you and it can cause you problems when it's clicking. Jacobian Morgan is the leading passer. He's 49 of 72, 670 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. McCoy does have 284 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, 16 of 31 passing. When they go to the air, Jonas Fortillion had 10 catches for 240 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was a long of 70. Isaiah Spencer, 12 catches, 206 yards, and a touchdown. Marvin Landy, 8 catches, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Terrell, 9 catches for 77 yards on the season. And Janalen Dupree had a 66-yard touchdown against Gremlins on Saturday. Reed Pulliam leads the defense with 24 tackles. Joshua Noble, 6.5 tackles for loss, and 4.5 sacks to lead the defense. And they have 4 interceptions by 4 different people. Guthrie, Hawkins, Wiggins, and Lacey each have an interception on the season. They have some guys who can be game breakers in the return game, but they haven't really had that huge return yet. But the possibility is there. The kicking game is solid. Baszler is 5 of 6 on field goals, and Matt Knoll is averaging 41.3 yards per punt. So they're a solid team. Their Grambling game, they're gonna want to come out and prove that that game isn't who they are. This is their first SWAC game that counts in the standings, so you can expect them to really want to atone for Saturday's game. And they're gonna try to take it to TSU. Right now, TSU is coming in this game at 1-2. They are 1-0 in conference. They average 17 points per game, giving up 32. They average 142 yards per game on the ground, 3.6 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. The opponents 6.1 yards per carry, 178 yards per game, and 8 touchdowns. Let's see where we are. Right now, TSU they're really run heavy. They're averaging they have 120 carries on the season, and only 58 pass attempts. So they are really leaning on that run game so far this season, and passing the ball at 35 of 58, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 94.6 yards per game. The opponents 162 yards per game through the air, 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. 49 or 89 passing, and TSU is averaging 237 yards per game, 4 yards per play. Opponents 5.8 yards per play, 340 yards per game. TSU is converting 32% on third down and 50% on fourth down, and they have 5 sacks. The opponents have 7 sacks. and opponents have converted 34% on third down and 75% on fourth down. Um, they've been led by two backs so far. Quintrell Quinn had 106. He has 162 yards on the season. He had a big game against Lamar on Saturday. He's averaging 5.4 yards per carry. Danny Green, who had a big game against Prairie View, he has 22 carries for 99 yards. Also, Jordan Davis has 24 carries for 62 yards. So when he's out there, they're gonna definitely run the ball with him. Um, he has the second most carries on the team so far. So you can definitely have to respect his legs when he's out there. Cooper, even though he's missed the last two games, he is leading the team and passing at 19 for 29, 180 yards. He does have one touchdown and no interceptions. Davis, 14 of 23, one touchdown, one interception, 97 yards passing. Jaron Johnson has 6 catches for 67 yards. AJ Bennett, 2 for 53. Uh, Kieran Charlo, 6 catches, 51 yards. Also, Trenton Leary, 6 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. Cordell Rogers has 4 catches for 31 yards and one touchdown. Defensively, Javius Williams leads the team with 22 tackles. Isaiah Bogarty has 21, and Kanari Simmons has 20 tackles for loss. Bogarty and Cox each have 2.5. Cox leads the defense with 2 sacks, and interceptions are by Simmons and Henson. So you look at their special teams unit, their punting game hasn't really been spectacular. They're averaging about 33 yards per punt on the season. Gustavo Romero is 3 of 6 on field goals with a longer 40. They've attempted 3 50-plus yard field goals. They are 0 for 3, but they have not been scared to kick 50-plus yard field goals. They've actually kicked more field goals where they kick basically same amount of field goals from 50-plus yards that they have from 20 to 49 yards. So they really aren't scared to kick from far. I don't know if that's his range, but they're not scared to do it. Sean Xavier Lewis, who is a pretty strong returner right now, he's averaging 28 yards per kickoff return and 2 yards per punt return. They haven't really had much going in the punt return game. Lewis can be a game breaker in the kick return game, so you definitely want to keep your eyes out on that. But I think this is JSU's game to win. I think you're going to see a JSU team who takes care of the ball better in this game. Those 5 turnovers really are going to get your attention as a team. You definitely don't want to have that happen again. I don't think TSU is going to be ran out of this game. I think they're going to be competitive. I think the style of ball they play is going to keep them in the game. But JSU should be able to run the ball in this game, and if they can, then that bodes well for them. They have been a team who can throw the ball, but they throw it a lot better when they can run it. So if they can run the ball and that sets up their passing game, they're gonna be able to get what they want in this game. I do think, like I said, TSU gonna battle in this game, but I like JSU by a score 24-14. It will be a game that's kind of tight going into the second half, but I think JSU running game is gonna be the difference in this game. And that takes us to our final game of the week. And this is the game I'm looking at as kind of our game of the week. And that's Grambling taking on Prairie View in Dallas at the State Fair Classic. Two teams kind of going in different directions. Grambling has kind of hit a little bit of a groove. They've won 3 straight. Prairie View has lost two straight and lost 3 out of their 4 games. So they are looking for some momentum. Offensively, Grambling hasn't really played the game that you expect for them to play, but their defense has just been very opportunistic in forcing turnovers, and they have really been able to convert some of those turnovers into touchdowns from their defense, and that gives you an opportunity in any game to stay in the game when you can force turnovers. Of course, when you do that, that gives you those extra possessions, and it helps your offense because a lot of time it puts you on a short field. So the offensive numbers are not spectacular, but the ability is there with their running backs and the talent at receiver and the preseason SWAC offensive player of the year quarterback is there, and Miles Crowley always has that potential to go off and explode for a big game. But this game is a 6 o'clock kickoff in Dallas, Texas. Like I said, State Fair Classic. And we're going to start with the Panthers of Prairie View. They come in off of a game against Southern that they, by all intents and purposes, they should have won this game. You were up 26. Well, really, at one point you were up 14-3. Another point you was up 11 to 10. 21 to 10. Then you were up 24-18. So, they're 24-16, excuse me. You were leading this game basically from the midpoint of the second quarter to the middle part of the fourth quarter, when Southern scored a late touchdown and you got a field goal block, and then Southern scored in overtime and Prairie View didn't. The Panthers haven't really been able to run the ball this season, and that's something that I think they're going to have to do in this game. Right now, they're averaging 17.5 points per game. They're giving up 32.5. They're running for 83.8 yards per game, only 2.2 yards per carry. And to me, with the backs that I think they have, after seeing some of those guys in action, I think they have some guys who can make things happen, but they just haven't been able to open up the holes. They haven't been able to, really keep the defense out the backfield. The quarterback has kind of been running for his life a little bit. And so, you're losing yards there. The defense is giving up 162 yards per game on the ground and 8 touchdowns, 4.9 yards per carry. Prairie View is 54 of 110 passing, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 203.7 yards per game. The opponent's 67 of 118, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 204 yards per game. Prairie View is at 287.5 yards per game. A total offense 4.4 yards per play. The opponent 366 yards per game, 5.8 yards per play. Prairie View is converting 37% on third down and 25% on fourth down, and they have 4 sacks. The opponents have 16 sacks on the season. Make sure that's the right number. Yeah, they've allowed. Oh, where am I? That's not the right. The offense has allowed 16 sacks on the in the season so far, which is worst in the league, and they only have 4 sacks as a defense, which is 9th in the league. So they haven't really. Their defense has some really solid guys on the D line, and some pretty solid linebackers, but they just haven't been able to consistently get that pressure. They were able to get in the backfield a little bit against Southern, and Southern was able to put the run game together. And to me, that was the difference in this game. I do think being able to run the ball is a huge thing for Prairie View in this game. They have to be able to move the ball on the ground, if for nothing else, to cut down on the opportunities for interceptions to occur. Going back to Saturday's game, Southern dropped 3 or 4 interceptions. And when I say dropped interceptions, I mean the ball in hand, bringing the ball down, and you drop it. Not those kind of, where you turn around and the ball coming at you and the guy never really had a chance to catch it, although it may have hit him. These were interceptions that guys made great breaks on the ball and just couldn't haul them in. Against a defense that forces a lot of turnovers, that's a recipe for disaster if you don't take care of the football. So that's why I feel like it's important to run the ball early and often, and give a guy opportunity to get a hot hand. They've kind of been rotating guys, and then you don't see guys anymore for a while, and it just hasn't really gotten going. Wisham leads the team with 109 yards on the season, and he has 1 touchdown. McDowell has yards per game, 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. Adams has 91 yards. He's averaging 4.3 yards per carry. Bingham, who was a young guy, came in on Saturday and had 4 carries. He's averaging 5.8 yards per carry. If I'm Prairie, I would really give McDowell a lot of carries. He's a bigger back. At least if nothing else, he can kind of wear down that Grambling defense, and then you can let your little guys kind of feed off of that. If that's the way you want to go, especially with the team not really being able to run a lot, being able to kind of pound that ball in there and kind of pound it till it works. I think that's probably a good option for them. Cameron Peters is 46 of 90 passing, 707 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Shamar Savage has to get targets. I don't think he got targeted that much on Saturday. You have to make sure he touches the ball. He has 15 catches for 282 yards, averaging 18.8 yards per catch and 1 touchdown. Got to get the ball in his hands. Spiller, 17 catches, 199 yards. Cavill had a 72-yard touchdown on Saturday, and Heron had a 45-yard reception for a touchdown on Saturday. Bryce Turner leads the defense with 24 tackles. Aiden Jones, 22. Terrell Coleman has 3 tackles for loss, along with Fred Stokes. Stokes leads the defense with 2 sacks. Had a huge game on Saturday. I think with 2 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. And their kicking game is pretty solid as well. They've already kicked 10 field goals this season. They're 7 of 10, and they're averaging 42.5 yards per punt. The return game hasn't really been there. The longest kickoff return is 30 yards, and they are negative in punt return yardage right now. Grambling comes into this game, like I said, the defense is very opportunistic, forcing 15 turnovers on the season so far. So, if you're Grambling, you're definitely looking for that to help you. You don't want to lean on that because turnovers can happen at any point, and one game it may not happen. So you want to still be able to play solid defense, which has kind of been up and down for them as a unit. And offensively, they haven't really hit their stride yet. Even though they're 3-1, they're averaging 30 points per game, but they're giving up 27. They average 89.5 yards per game on the ground, which I would love to see that run game get going. They have some really good backs. I would like to see them kind of start to flourish. They're only averaging 3 yards per carry. The opponents are averaging 162 yards per game on the ground and 4.5 yards per carry. So you can run on this team. The thing is, Grambling has just been so relentless and forcing turnovers that it kind of overshadows everything else that they've done or haven't done, depending on how you want to look at it. 68 of 118 passing for Grambling, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 196.2 yards per game through the air. The opponent's 77 of 134, 6 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 267.2 yards per game. Grambling is averaging 285.8 yards per game on offense, 4.8 yards per play. The opponent's 429 yards per game, 6.2 yards per play. Grambling is converting 30% on third down, and they haven't attempted a 4th down yet. They have 7 sacks as a defense. The opponents have 6. Grambling is allowing opponents to convert 35% on third down and 33% on 4th down. Run game is led by Travion Hargrove. He has 190 yards on the season and 3 touchdowns. Trey Bradford, 175 yards on the season and 2 touchdowns. So those 2 guys, I'm looking for at least one of those 2 guys to have a big game on Saturday. If they can get that going, that really makes them tough to beat. Crawley, 65 of 112, 762 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Javon Robinson leads the team with 14 catches for 236 yards and a touchdown. Nick Howard, 8 for 116 and a touchdown. Jacoby Velazard, 9 for 97 and a touchdown. Defensively, Andrew Jones leads the team with 38 tackles. He also leads the team with 6.5 tackles for loss. And Bryce Cage leads with 2 sacks. Brendan Barley leads the team with 3 interceptions. Special teams, right now, Grambling averaging 40 yards per punt, and they're 4 of 8 on field goals with a longer 50. So they do have a nice leg there. Return game hasn't really gotten going yet. They do have a 57-yard kickoff return on the season by Jacoby Belazar. This game this is an interesting game, and this game still can go either way. I don't think this is a game that's like a clear cut Grambling win, because Grambling still has some things to work out. The offense hasn't really hit the stride, and when Gremlin's defense isn't forcing turnovers, they're very susceptible to the run and the pass. So they have had their struggles, but they've overcome that by way of forcing turnovers and catching those turnovers into points. So that really helps them a lot. Prairie View, they haven't really they haven't really had a lot of success. You know, they scored a lot of points against Northwestern State, but they gave up a lot of points in that game. They seem to be on the road to a victory over Southern, and then their intensity in the second half didn't match what Southern had in the second half. And then you know what happened against TSU, where they just really got outplayed from the probably the second quarter on. So they're in a tough spot. They're 0-2 in conference already, and not only are they 0-2 in conference, but they're 0-2 in the division. So that really hurts in terms of tiebreakers right now. At this point, you need the two teams to beat you to lose at least twice. So, and that's losing twice, and then you not losing anymore. So really, you probably need those teams to lose 3 times to avoid a tiebreaker with them. You lose this game here, you drop to 0-3, and your hopes are basically out the door. Of course, there's always that slim chance that something crazy will happen. It's happened in the last couple of years, but you don't really want to hope that after week 5. So this is a very important game for Prairie View, and it's almost similar to last week. They're playing a team who's playing their first official SWAC game of the season. So the level of desperation is different. I think Grambling's going to want to come in and continue to prove that their defense can take the ball away, but their defense has to get stops. Their offense has to move the ball. And I still like Grambling in this game because I think I don't know how long I don't know how long this turnover train is gonna keep rolling, but I think it's gonna move forward another week, and I think Grambling wins this game. It's gonna be another tight game for Prairie View. I think Grambling wins this game 27-20. I think they score a late touchdown to win, and they take the State Fair Classic. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Seawells, signing out, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.